engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Minot State Professional Communications Department proudly brings to you the Striha Sports Podcast with your host, Parker Striha. Hello and welcome back to the Striha Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Parker Striha, and on today's episode, I'm going to be talking to a current wide receiver for the Minot State football team. I'm by no means a professional, but I do love talking about sports, so thank you for joining me. Before we get into a bulk of today's episode, I just would like to thank KMSU and Web Western for sponsoring today's episode. You can get this nice hat that I have. I got that from Web Western. If you use code ParkerStria at checkout, you get 10% off. And of course, thank you to KMSU for allowing me to use this nice podcast room and putting my stuff up also on their channels. But without further ado, he is a homegrown talent who plays wide receiver for the Minot State Beavers football team. He is going into his junior season with the Beavers and will be looking to break onto the scene in the NSIC. Today, I'm joined by Mr. Sam Wedar. Thank you for joining me. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. Yeah, so just before, like with every episode I just have 5 quick get-to-know-you questions right at the beginning just to kind of ease into the episode, and then we'll get into the bulk of the interview. So first question is just, what is your favorite type of pizza?
Favorite kind of pizza? I'm kind of weird. I like pepperoni pizza, but I like to throw pineapple on it.
Ooh.
Yeah, hot take, but I think pineapple does belong on pizza.
Definitely a hot take. I don't know if I can agree with you on that one, but I don't think there's a wrong answer to that. And number 2, I already know the answer to this one, but what is your favorite NFL team? And if you don't have one, what is your favorite overall sports team?
Definitely the Chargers. Definitely the Chargers. I grew up watching LT. Right when Keenan Allen got drafted in 2013, I was growing up, started to play football, so I just fell in love with the team.
Nice. Definitely one of the better teams in the AFC as of right now, I think. Definitely with Herbert at quarterback. So not a wrong answer. I mean, I'm a Green Bay fan. We're going through our own struggles right now, but nothing wrong with that. And number 3, if you could have any superpower, what would it be?
The superpower to change probabilities.
Oh.
Kind of a weird one, but if you think about it, if I want $1 million, I'll change the probability to being 100%. If I want super strength, I'll change that probability to 100% that I'll get that power. So I feel like it's a cheap way of being able to manipulate reality.
Wow, that's actually that's one I've never heard before, but I think it's actually probably one of the better ones I've heard so far on the podcast. And number 4, this one has been pretty one-sided. I don't think there's really been someone choosing one of the options. But are you team LeBron James or team Michael Jordan?
I'm kind of on the fence right now, just because I think if we're looking at a pure competitor, I think Michael Jordan. But if we're looking at pure talent, pure skill, I'm going to take LeBron. I just think that, you got the longevity, the athleticism, points per game, even out through his whole career, he's got every stat in the book. I mean, he's top 10 in everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to argue. So
yeah, I mean, I don't really think there's a wrong answer by any means on that. I think everyone I've talked to has said MJ, but granted, a lot of the guys I have asked were all, this is going to sound really rude to them probably, but they were all growing up or were really big sports fans during MJ's prime, and during that, I, of course, wasn't. You, of course, weren't, but I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think both of them are obviously great in their own right. And lastly, what is your favorite song?
Favorite song? I don't really have a favorite song. I'm kind of an old head in the sense of I bounce between anything from old 50s. I can go all the way back to Bing Crosby. I can go to Tupac, Biggie. Mainstream right now, J. Cole's my guy. But right now my favorite song is, I don't remember, it doesn't have a title, but J. Cole went on YouTube one night, looked up J. Cole beats, and he clicked on the first one, wrote a song on it, and then sent it to that producer, or the the guy who made the song, just randomly. And no, they haven't posted, obviously, but it's up on the guy's YouTube channel. He only had a few hundred followers, and now obviously he's got.
Well, now it's blown up.
Exactly, and he sent him a text with he's like, hey, I put some lyrics over this. Keep working hard, whatever. And I thought it was really cool, and it's a great song. So.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm also a pretty big J. Cole fan. I'm not super into a lot of rap. I'm trying to get more into it, but J. Cole's definitely one of my top guys. But so before we jump into this, before we really get into everything, could you give me a quick rundown of your playing career so far, like when you started and what positions you've played?
Well, I started back in high school. I was recruited as a wide receiver, but I played tight end back in high school. I was a bigger kid back then, growing from, Pee-wee all the way up until high school. I was always tight end, D-line, linebacker, safety, just one of the bigger guys, played the bigger positions. But then come high school, obviously, you're not going to look at my senior year. After I broke my hand, I was 6'1", 180-ish. Obviously, that's not a good place to be as a tight end in college. So he asked me to come on as a wideout, and I was like, perfect. I liked wideout better. But, and then come college, I've been wideout ever since, except for this year. You can consider myself a slot back is what we call it, which is, another sense for a slot wide receiver, running back, the hybrid. But playing career, I've seen the field a little bit, not much. I've been battling through injuries. To list many, I've broken my foot, my wrist, my hand. I've got some heart issues. List goes on. So I've been a little unfortunate with that. But I've seen a lot of time on the field, whether it's practice or in the weight room, and I love the guys, and I think it's a great place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so kind of getting into that, you are a guy who's from Minot originally. So what led you to choose Minot State over any other offers you may have had coming out of high school? Was it that hometown feel, or was it the coaching, or what kind of was that?
I did well, to be fair. Coming out of high school, I broke my hand week 3 of my senior year. So obviously recruiting went downhill. I had talks from a few places like Mayville, obviously Mary, and just a few other small schools that I can't really remember, but obviously wasn't strong, but obviously Minot State was, obviously close, so they knew who I was. But it was right when Caleb Heilman was transitioning to Minot State. And I was, at the time, a senior in high school, one of the main guys that goes and lifts there, so I was a poster child, if you want to say. Like, I was on some of their, strength and conditioning website pictures, and like, hey, come do this, come do that. And Caleb, one time I was lifting, he was like, hey, why aren't you playing college football? And he's like, you're moving weight, I think you could, play. And I was like, I don't know. Everybody's kind of stopped talking to me. Obviously, I broke my hand. Like, I'm still doing rehab, all this. And he's like, I think you should give it a shot. And he talked to then Brody Myers, who was an intern at the time, which also worked at the high school when I was lifting. He asked me the same question. And I gave him the same answer. And then they finally both just gave me Ledege's number. And we had a quick chat. He called me up into his office, and that was it.
Yeah, and that's how it works. I mean, definitely not a bad thing to play for your hometown team, obviously. Of course, it's unfortunate that that's how your senior season had to end, of course, with week 3 hand. Like you said, it was a broken hand week 3?
Yeah, I had to get a plate and 6 screws put in my hand.
Oh.
Yeah. It was... I got a pretty cool picture out of it, but besides that, I missed the remainder of the season except for the last game.
Damn. Yeah, that's brutal. That's like the one time you don't want to see that happen, is when you're at the brink of making it to college football and then something like that happens.
Yeah, I think there's always one. There's always somebody in the senior class where like whether it's a torn ACL, broken hand, whatever. There's always that one kid that misses out. And, as crappy as it is, I'm glad it was me instead of all the other guys, because obviously they got to enjoy their time out there.
Kind of speaking with, so you went to Minot High, correct?
Yep.
Did you, I'm assuming you may have crossed paths with them, like Peyton Lamore, I believe, went there, and didn't Ben Belinsky also go to Minot High? Yep. So did you guys ever, I'm assuming you and Peyton, you're not too far off in age, but did you ever play with those guys in high school or middle school?
We were buddies. It was Ben Belinsky, not as much. I grew close to him in college because I came in as a freshman and he was senior year. So he was, there and gone. But Ben Belinsky, I met him a few times. Obviously, I'm a freshman tight end looking up at the starting varsity quarterback, so there's not much I'm going to say. But, Logan Kruger and Peyton Lamore both.
Forgot about Logan.
Yeah, they were just the class above me. Yeah, obviously it's a little weird with COVID since I have 2 years of eligibility left, and they both just graduated, so it's kind of weird to think about. But, they were just the grade above me. And, obviously Peyton being a wideout and then me being a tight end, I practiced with obviously Peyton a lot, but then when it comes to defense, I was with Kruger a lot. So I built a relationship with both of them, and then obviously through basketball, I played with Peyton, not so much Kruger. But yeah, no, I went up against Kruger quite a bit in one-on-ones and stuff like that, and obviously he's got the best of me most of the time. But I like to tell him that I got him a few times.
Yeah,
definitely. It was fun.
And Logan definitely is not a small human being by any means, but kind of on that same page, like when you were coming to Minot State, the head coach and offensive coordinator that were here when you got recruited are no longer here. Coach Aldrich was not brought back after last season. And can you kind of talk me through the thoughts and emotions that went through your head, like when you found out that Coach Aldrich was no longer going to be the HC at Minot State?
For me, personally, I think obviously it's a big change in as far as culture, but when it comes to position, he was a defensive-minded head coach. So I didn't see him all that much unless we're on the practice field or in a meeting. But as far as like the OC, Edholm, I obviously had a lot more contact with him, but I've also been through 3 different position coaches in the last 5 years I've been here. We had Coach Ladegi, Coach Janos, and now Coach Pham. So, I mean, it's a big change with the head coach as far as, how the team's being led, obviously, what our demeanor is, how the culture is. And I think there's been a huge change with that. But since my first year, you could just kind of, it was top-notch, and it was just kind of, we were just kind of slowly taking steps forward, but at the same time, like, our accountability wasn't there. And so I think now with the head coach, it was just kind of like a rinse of clean water, and we're all fresh, and we all understand what needs to be done, and we're back to those high expectations.
Yeah, and I mean, I was out there for a lot of spring ball, and I could definitely tell that the energy was there, whether it was the coaching staff or the players, especially like Blake Espino, Jake Swerple. They were all crazy during spring, but I loved that. I was, of course, with the defense almost exclusively with it, but I think it was awesome seeing all that new energy, because you can definitely tell that there's a change in the air. I mean, obviously new coaching staff, like complete new coaching staff other than DeYoung and Pham, but you can definitely tell that something is happening, and I'm really excited to watch you guys out there this fall. I think good things are coming, especially after, of course, unfortunately some not great winning seasons. Obviously only a couple wins the last couple years, but I can definitely say from my heart that I think something good's coming for this team.
Yeah, no, there's definitely something fresh in the air, you can tell, especially with obviously like the demeanor and all the players, especially even before we hit the field for spring ball. Once we were in the weight room, and instead of just having, coaches being like, hey, get to weights at 6, you show up at 6 a.m., coaches are there at 5:50, hey, let's go. They walk in the weight room with us. Obviously, they're not throwing weight around with us, but everybody's watching. All the coaches are there. Nobody's skipping, unless obviously some of the coaches, GAs have class and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But everybody's there. Everybody's being held accountable, and you can just tell that the demeanor in the weight room especially, people are like, okay, it's time to get better. People aren't just there, okay, I'm going to throw on, 225, do my few reps and leave. People are like, okay, coaches are here. It's time to show up.
Yeah, there's definitely nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think that definitely it can only make the team better, because it definitely puts good pressure on you, because you want to show coaches that, hey, I'm here to play, and I'm here to show you why you should play me. But kind of moving on, I think I may have touched on, but what has it been like having to learn a whole new system, obviously, and playbook with Coach Shields and his staff coming to Minot State after playing in predominantly that one system since arriving at Minot State with the offensive coordinator and receiving coaches?
It's definitely, like we said, pressure. It's definitely a lot of added pressure, but obviously it's a spring ball, so it's not like we need to be in tip-top shape before, we have a game on Saturday. But it's definitely a change, because obviously me being, having 3 years of spring ball experience, it's like, okay, I know the system I'm in. I'm going to hone in on my skills, not, okay, now I've got to get my playbook. So it's kind of almost a switch in the sense of I've got to not put my skills on the back burner, but I need to make sure I know my plays in order to perfect my skills, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I know we kind of spoke on this briefly earlier, but since you got to Minot State, you haven't exactly had the greatest run of luck when it comes to getting on the field, unfortunately. With your first season, you didn't play, and then the following season, obviously canceled due to COVID. And then I know you also brought up that you've had some injury history. How have those circumstances, specifically the injuries, affected you mentally, not only as a player, but just as a person off of the football field?
That's a great question, and I kind of I think about that a lot, really, because I believe people mature off pain, not just age. And I believe you have to go through something in order to really see the perspective of it. And obviously going from senior year, breaking my head, watching everybody play, and then obviously coming here, freshman year, red shirt, great year, got better. Then obviously it was COVID, and then it was my foot, and then it was, my wrist and all this other stuff. So it really puts into perspective on how much you really love the game, because there was a lot of other players that, broke something or tore this, and you see them for 2 weeks and they're gone. So I think it really shows you who cares for the game. But as far as actually, really being there, I think it really helps me to expand at a maturity level myself when it comes to being there for teammates or, correcting people and being like, hey, I know you can't see this on the field right now, but, for instance, there was another slot went out on a route. It's like, hey, you got to go outside. You can't get rerouted there. And it's like they're not going to see that on the field. So being able to just in a sense, I had obviously a few of the coaches being, I'm just another assistant coach out there, which is really fun, but at the same time, you're like, I just want to put a helmet on.
You want to be out on the field too.
Yeah.
And I feel like the injuries you had, they're not great injuries for a receiver to have. Like obviously the foot and the hand, those are probably the two most crucial parts of your body for obviously a wide receiver. That can't be easy to have to recover something that you obviously need so dearly. But have the injuries forced you to change the ways you train and or practice?
Oh, absolutely. So I don't know the specific name for it, but especially for my feet, I had to get $500 insoles put in my feet because I've got high arches for some reason. So obviously planting on the outsides of my feet 6 days a week isn't the best. So obviously, I've broken my left foot twice, my right one once. So they've definitely taken a toll. But, my feet are going strong now. But it definitely, as far as, weight room, I broke my wrist in the weight room, hang cleaning. So obviously I'm always focused on, driving my arms through as far as that. But it's always just, now it's muscle memory. But, a year ago, 2 years ago when that first happened, it was every time I went in the weight room, I had to, take a mental note. You can't go this way with this foot. You can't, swing your arm under this way yet. And then even when it came to being on the field, in practice, after I broke my wrist, I couldn't cup a ball in my right hand. So I always had to switch left. And so now even when I'm out running routes, it's muscle memory now. It's a bad habit, but I'll catch it and I'll tuck it to my left automatically, even if I'm on the right side of the field. So it's just those little nicks that you take a mental note, but then it just becomes muscle memory.
Yeah, I personally have broken a couple things of my own, but I'm obviously not a college football player or even really an athlete anymore. But it's just crazy how much some of that stuff does force you to change even little things about what you do that you've never really thought about. But, kind of moving past that, and I may catch some flack for this, and I'm okay with that, but this current Beavers receiving room, in my opinion, is still very unproven. So how do you look to set yourself apart from everyone in hopes of being seen as one of those top guys in the room, whether that's by the coaches or other players on the team?
I'd say right now for me, someone that obviously didn't have a spring ball due to injury, I think day one knowing the playbook. If you don't know what you're doing out there, you can't be out there. It's plain and simple. It's, step one, know the playbook. Step two, then it's okay. Am I going inside? Am I going outside? What foot am I stepping with? Where's my assignment? It's playbook. Then it becomes, obviously your assignment, and then you got to learn where, your technique thrives. So I think, obviously just really being able to dive deep into the playbook and, going out day one, showing them that, hey, I'm not at 80%, I'm at 100%, I know where I'm going all the time, is a great way to go out and prove myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably the most crucial part of it. Like you said, you can't be on the field if you don't know the plays, if you don't know what you're doing, and especially as weird as it may say, not being on the field during spring ball definitely, I think, you can probably attest to this, has helped you dramatically with learning that stuff because you don't have to worry about getting out on the field. You can kind of just hone in on all of those skills. But I think this is probably the last football question I have, at least for a little bit. But what made you choose number 19 if you did have any say in that number yourself?
There's a few reasons. First, starting out, it was just given to me. But I was always number 16. I was born on the 16th, but I wasn't a big fan of wearing 16. I didn't really have any idols that looked up to it. And so then my sophomore year, the first time I dressed varsity, they had number 8, they had number 19, and they had number 43. And I immediately knew I wanted 19. I picked 19. And the reason being, I'm not sure if you know, do you know who Lance Allworth is?
Yes.
The Bambi. Him, obviously Adam Thielen. I was the class of 19. I was 19 at the time of my senior year, obviously. So it was just a lot of, oh, crap moments where like, you know what? It makes sense. And then obviously coming in, Chris Bueno, old Minot State wide receiver, wore it. And I told him, I was like, hey, once you're done, I'm taking it. And so, you know, that was that.
Yeah, it's definitely not a bad number. It's definitely better than 43.
Yeah.
Definitely better than 43. But
You can tell Jordan Sanford that.
You know, and kind of moving past football, like I said, I also know that you have your own shoe customization brand. Could you tell me a little bit about how that started and what you hope to do with it in the future?
It really started with my love for shoes. I've got not a lot of shoes, but I've got shoes that I really like. I don't wear a lot, which I probably should. But the customization thing, it really started with, all the players and the, I believe it's My Cleats My Way, I believe.
I believe so.
In the NFL, and I saw it and it was awesome. And then actually one of my buddies got a Cricut, and it's just a basic stencil maker. You know, he plays some stuff out on vinyl, and I was like, hey, let's take it a step further. He's like, I want to do a pair of shoes. I'm like, I'm going to start on cleats. And I had 4 sets of cleats, and I just took them all, started doing designs. I was like, this is pretty fun. And then I stumbled on a few pairs of just like blank white canvas Air Jordan 1 cleats.
Mm-hmm.
And after I did those cleats and there was no hitch to it, I was like, this is awesome. So then I had people reach out to me about back plates, cleats. I've painted face masks, anything paint related. I can do to any football equipment really, and I enjoy it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it was a design you did for, I think it was Isaiah. And that was probably one of the favorites I saw. It was simple, obviously just black cleats, I believe, with just the white lettering and stuff on it, but I thought those were super clean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that was a play on the off-white Jordan 1s, and he was a big fan of that. He saw, I think it was Henry Ruggs wear a pair, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Back in college, of course.
And is there a certain place, you get your inspiration for the designs, or is it like, or is it more so the shoe that you kind of get the design or the inspiration from?
Well, being a college student, I can't get my hands on every cleat I want, so it really depends on what I can do with the cleat. Because I can take a cleat and I can cut out whatever I want. I can take acetone, I can remove all the lettering, I can remove all the designs and just start from scratch. Or if it doesn't come off, I will incorporate it into my design. So it really just depends on what the cleat gives me.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And kind of going past that also, I do believe, and I'm correct me if I'm wrong, that you do have a twin that played for the women's basketball team here. So I obviously only have a younger brother who is almost 2 years younger than me. So what was it like growing up with a twin who is obviously so close to you in age?
Sharing is caring. I didn't have anything of my own except, I didn't get my first bedroom until I was, I believe, 16. I shared one with my little sister, or my twin sister, and then my little brother. And so I kind of got short end of the stick there. But as far as, going places, doing stuff at school, birthday parties, we were always together. Whether I liked it or not, we were always together. So it sucked sometimes, obviously, when I was little. It was like, oh, I want to do this by myself. I want to do that. But, now looking back on it, I think it kind of gave me a perspective that nobody else has, and the fact that, hey, not everything should be yours.
Yeah, and I mean, it's almost like a forced friendship in a way, because you can't get away from them because obviously you guys have the same birthday and stuff like that. But, I think I can also safely assume that you two are and were still very competitive with each other. So, what was it like for you, at least, when you both committed to play collegiate sports, but you also both committed here at Minot State?
It was kind of almost separate because I had committed April and then she was a late signing. She had the same thing where she didn't know what she was going to do after high school. She knew she was going to go to college, whether it be UND here or wherever. But then we had an uncle reach out being friends with the head coach Grappi at the time, saying like, hey, if you want to come try out, we've got a spot.
Mm-hmm.
And, she went in, did her thing and signed, and she loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. I got one more question before I kind of get into a couple miscellaneous that I just kind of threw together at the end. You obviously, like you said, you're going into your junior season, so I think you said you have 2 years of eligibility left. So, I mean, your time at MSU is winding down, but do you have any goals for things you'd like to do or accomplish once you leave Minot State, or even just as you're nearing the end at Minot State?
Number one, get my master's. I am going to be graduating in the fall, and then right after that, I would like to pursue my master's in sports management. And then number two, obviously, with sports management, I want to dive into sports agency. So, and I believe building connections, especially being a collegiate athlete, I can do that, whether it be through friends that I have here already that I believe can, go to the next level, or whether it be talking to Coach Pham or Coach Shields and, being, they've both told me that, we have some people that, that we know and that are in sports management. Coach Pham knows a guy up in Canada, so it's just a waiting game for me. Once I get there, I'm just going to find those opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I mean, you have to just grab those opportunities when they appear, because they're not always going to find you. I mean, you obviously have to go get them a lot of the time. And I think that's definitely an interesting field to go into. I've never really looked too much into it, but I think, like you said, being able to get those connections, and obviously sports agency is, I don't know a whole lot, so I don't want to talk too much out of place, but I think that's definitely a place where you could go and you can really grow really fast if you know like the right people and stuff. But kind of moving into my more miscellaneous questions as I have them labeled, I think it's safe to say that you are a very fashionable person. I've seen some of the outfits on Instagram, but where do you find inspiration for these outfits, or how do you decide to put them together?
I think to me it's really just like, I don't really care what a lot of people think of me, and I think that's kind of where fashion starts, is you just got to wear what you feel comfortable in, what you think you look good in, and whether people like it or not, it's you. But for me, obviously being a college student, I go thrifting pretty much once a week, once every other week with my girlfriend, go out, look for some stuff, and if I get lucky, I get lucky. If not, I'll go next week. And so I just build up a collection there, and it helps that I've got a big closet, so I don't have to throw out a lot of stuff. But I'll just, throw on a T-shirt, and I'll look through my shorts, and I'll just put an outfit together. And if I like it, I like it. If not, I'll switch it. And it's just, bottom line, I'll wear what I want, and if people have something to say about it, they can. But it's my outfit.
Yeah, and I think that's actually the perfect way to go about it. It's who cares what people are going to say about it. You just got to be you, like you said. But, kind of moving, I guess that wasn't my last football question earlier, but are there any guys at any level of football, whether that's college or NFL, CFL, stuff like that, that you try to model your game after?
I would definitely say the two would be Keenan Allen and Adam Thielen, just because they're both not speedy guys. I don't pride myself on my speed. There was a Coach Bruno, week one of spring ball, he came up to me and he said, I need to be more explosive. And I told him, I was like, you're right, I do, but I like to be smooth. I like to be smooth more than explosive, because I know me at 100% being explosive isn't going to be, it'll be 80% of the guy I'm lining up to. So I think for me, being able to understand the playbook, and then being able to, especially from a slot position, knowing if I go right and he commits, do I have to dive back inside, or if I do a rocker step left right and he jumps, do I take the inside? Is the field open or closed? Is it 3 high? Is it 2 high? Are we playing man? So I think it's for me, it's definitely being able to understand not my assignment but my technique assignment. So whether it's making sure I got to have this guy go this way so I can get open here, or I have to sit down in a zone. So I think for me, it's really reacting off the defense and being quick on my feet, not necessarily fast.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think those are two terrible guys at all to, try to hone your craft after. Two of the best in the league. Obviously, Thielen and Keenan Allen are both getting a little bit older, but they're definitely still two of the best in the league, in my opinion. But, when I was thinking of these questions, I had to do this. I'd be an idiot if we left off without talking about the man himself, Lloyd, your corgi. You know, I know you have a little series on Snapchat based off of, I believe it's called Finding Lloyd or something.
Looking for Lloyd.
Looking for Lloyd. That's what it is. You know, could you kind of tell me how that started? Because, I mean, it's definitely not a terrible thing. I always like seeing those Snapchat stories.
Well, it started off with my mom's kindergarten class. I had got Lloyd December 15th of 2020. He was a COVID puppy, which I needed. I needed a little buddy. But I think he's one of the cutest dogs in the world. Obviously, I'm biased, but my mom's kindergarten class at the time fell in love with him, so I made a TikTok page, posted some pictures on there and some videos, and some of them, you know, got a decent amount of exposure. And then so I just had a natural following with Lloyd, obviously just people in Minot. Not a big following by any means, but then I took it to Snapchat. He's got his own little Snapchat story, and then there was just a few times where I'll just be looking around and I can't find him. And then I'll just like glance my head and I'll just see like his nose out of my closet, or I'll be outside and I'll like look up in my window and you can see his 2 ears pointing out the window, or, you know, hiding under a bush. So it's just like he finds these little spots, and I just took a few pictures of him and posted them online, and we're on Snapchat, and I've had people, you know, Troy Cowell is a big fan. He's actually the number one. He's top ranked number one right now, because I'll post it 3 minutes later. He'll bottom left under the blanket, and I was like, I'll go first place. You know, go yes. So he's on it all. He might even have the notifications turned on for it.
That's awesome. Good old Troy and good old Lloyd. I mean, I had to bring him up. I can't do an episode with you without bringing out Lloyd. But, you know, got 2 more questions left. One is just, if people want to find you on any form of social media, whether that's Instagram, Twitter, anything like that, what would they look up if they wanted to find you?
My name, Sam Wedar, Sam-Wedar, capital S, capital W. Any platform.
Okay, perfect. Short and simple. I like it. And lastly, is there just anything else that you'd like to add or talk about before we end this off?
I don't believe so. I'd say the only thing is that you talked about, you know, the mental side of things and, you know, how that's affected me. And I've talked about it with a lot of people. I think I've been in outreach in our football team, especially with I've had my fair share of things in the past where I believe I've really grown from. And like I said, maturing off pain, so I believe I'm a very mature person. So I've had a few people reach out to me in order of, you know, not being in good headspace, or, you know, not sure where they're wanting to go, and I can, you know, help them and talk through them, take them out to eat or whatever. So if anybody's watching this and wants to reach out, you know, I'm an open book. You can ask for my phone number, my Instagram, my Twitter, whatever you want. I'm here to share my story.
Yeah, I love that. I've never really thought that, but I think that's awesome. It's always nice to have that guy and to be that guy that people of any background or any whatever, whether they're athletes, whether they're not, that they can reach out to and talk about stuff. Obviously, you said you're very mature and you've been through a lot, so it definitely helps to, you know, have that experience when you're talking to people, because then you have the understanding and the compassion that not a lot of people will have in situations like that. So I think that's definitely something that, I mean, I'm sure people who have done it or know you can reach out and kind of say that it's definitely helpful. And I think personally, I think that's awesome, especially as someone who has dealt with some of his own stuff in the past. It's always nice to have someone who's kind of there to, you know, talk about stuff like that, because not everyone is comfortable doing it.
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, it makes it a lot easier talking to somebody knowing they've been through it. Because I think one of the big problems, a lot of people, they'll go through their struggles and they're like, oh, nobody mm-hmm. will understand. Nobody, you know, is going through what I'm going through. And I promise you, everybody's going through something. Whether it's, you know, this small or this big, you know, everybody's going through something. If it's a missed assignment or, you know, a late friend or, you know, breaking something, you know, missing out on a sport. Everybody's going through something, no matter how big, how small, and you can't judge them on if it means the world to them or not. So I think finding somebody that you know has been through a lot and can really find that spot where you're like, okay, maybe we are compatible. Maybe they do know what I'm talking
mm-hmm.
about. I think is a really easy way for them to open up.
Yeah, absolutely. But anything else you want to add before we end this off?
I mean, I could just put it out there. If anybody wants to reach out to me, my phone number is 701-500-9484. It'd be the best way to get a hold of me. So if anybody wants to talk, I'm there.
Perfect. So that is all I have for you guys today. Once again, I'd like to thank Sam for joining me today and for having this great conversation. Obviously, he just gave his phone number, so if you would like to reach out to him, you can do that. But like I said, this is all I have for you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you all next time. Peace.